Future leaders do something different. They master 3 skills that most people ignore. And if you get these right, you separate yourself completely. You probably clicked on this video because you want to lead, not just someday, but soon. You're ambitious, you're capable, but you know that true leadership is not about hitting a performance target or having a fancy title. It's about becoming someone that others want to follow. So I've worked with thousands of executives across hundreds of businesses, and I've seen the same behaviors, the same mindset show up time and time again. They're not random, and they're certainly not new. In fact, we can trace these behaviors back to 2,000 years ago. And the third one is the least common, but it's the difference between being liked and being remembered. So let's get into it. Let's start with the most misunderstood one. When people hear emotional control, they think cold, they think robotic, they think detached. And in fact, the term stoic is often misassigned to those who are deemed emotionless. But actually, it's about having the awareness and the persistence and the restraint. One of the core tenets of stoicism is understanding what's in your control versus what's out of your control. It's what Marcus Aurelius wrote about when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." In a work environment, it means not panicking when a deal falls through. It means not snapping at a colleague who's underdelivered. It means not spiraling when plans change or when someone has said something that you may deem disrespectful. So here's the reality. The people who can't control their emotions are manipulated by them. They get played, they get triggered, they get derailed. But those people who can, they create space between the trigger and their response. They pause, they take a moment, they consider their appropriate reaction, and that's what people remember. Not who yelled the loudest, but who stayed the calmest and the most composed. So next time you get a frustrating email, either do or don't write the reply, but whatever you do, don't hit send until you've taken that space to consider your reaction. And 99 times out of 100, you will find that your later response is more productive in the long run. This next one is one that instantly elevates your credibility. Besides what you're wearing, it's the first impression made with every person you meet. Have you ever thought that someone just looked the part or they had that aura that made them seem powerful? But as soon as they started speaking, they lost that credibility. They started mumbling around on the same repeated point. Future leaders don't flood meetings with 10-minute monologues. They cut through the noise and make streamlined points. And something I always think about is to try and limit your word count by making your words count. Epictetus once said, "First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak." Look at every great leader, CEOs, politicians, military commanders, they all speak in tight, clear sentences. And it's not because they're overly rehearsed, but because they know why they're speaking. So here's how to practice this. Next time you find yourself in a meeting, ask yourself 2 simple questions. The first, what is the one thing I want them to understand? And the second question is, what actions do I want them to take? The answers to these 2 questions force you to get clear before you speak, and it shows up everywhere. When you're giving updates in a meeting, when you're pitching an idea to your boss, when you're writing an email to your stakeholders, everywhere. So focus on those 2 questions and get your answers across as quickly and succinctly as possible. Now here's the one that most people miss. Future leaders think in layers. They zoom out when most people are zoomed in. When faced with a question about how to act, they don't just consider what do we do now, but what are the ripple effects of our actions 6 months from now. They can see that bigger game, the political layer, the human layer, the emotional layer, and the financial layer. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoics and advisor to Emperor Nero, practiced this constantly, and it was known as strategic foresight. He said, "A man who has planned in advance and reflected constantly on the troubles that may befall him withstands them easily. He who is always ready suffers less." And this is the kind of thinking that makes you essential to any team. You're not just doing tasks, but you're actually analysing the impact. You're connecting the dots that no one else is seeing. So what can you do to build this way of thinking? Well, you can start by asking, what's the second order effect? So for example, if we push this deadline, what does that mean for the customer experience? If we restructure that team, what does it do for the morale in 3 months' time? Now, most people never ask these questions, but future leaders do. So when you're reviewing a decision or an action to take, I want you to run a 3-layer check. Immediate impact, mid-term consequence, and long-term reputation. You'll catch things early, anticipate the impact, and earn the respect of everyone around you. So emotional control, clarity in speech, and layered thinking. And they sound simple, but they're rare And all three together form a very powerful trio. And you don't need a title to practice these. You can start today, in your next email, in your next meeting, in your next decision. Because the truth is, leadership isn't something that you get. It's built one small moment at a time. And the people who build it early in their careers, they don't just rise fast, but they rise ready. So if this hit home, please like and subscribe the video, or even share it with someone who's hungry to lead. And drop a comment. Which one of these 3 traits are you going to start working on right now? Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.